Award-winning futurist, researcher, and keynote speaker Nikolas Badminton joins us on Canada Now. All right, Nick, it's about that time where you are going to tell us every single thing that's going to happen in 2021.
I don't know if I'm going to cover all the ground that we need to cover, but yeah, this is the time of the year, and I think this is like my 8th year in a row I've been writing my predictions. And normally my predictions, I don't really use the word prediction. I talk about speculation. I look at 5, 10, 20 years. But what I do every year around about October time is sit down, look at the world and say, what's really going to happen in the next year? Where are the shifts happening? And, I'm happy to call them predictions. I'm happy to put some money in the game,
Yeah. So we'll call them predictions, but they're not exactly that. And you made them on Futurist.com. And you're not claiming to be right, but more so asking what if.
Yeah, absolutely. Asking what if the world was going to change. But, based on the evidence that I found, the things that I speak about as part of my 2021 predictions are going to start to play out. And it's sort of a wake-up call for everyone to take a look at these and know that change is coming.
So you are dubbing 2021 the year of transcendence.
Yeah. So it's this idea that we're going to rise out of our current state into a new way of looking at the world, a world where we can have greater insight and foresight, and we can be better prepared, right? So this is the idea from being reactionary to becoming proactive, and transcendence is something I love to use the idea of, because as we start to sort of rise into our potential as humans, then we can really start to work out how we can have positive effects on the world.
Well, and would you look at 2021 in that vein? Because 2020 really has felt like we have been more reactive than proactive because of the pandemic?
Yeah, it's because no one was prepared for the pandemic. If you look at countries like Taiwan, they had a plan. They've gone like 200 plus days without a single, without a case. And I think the last person died sometime in like March or something like that. It's crazy. So they had a plan. No one else had a plan. China kind of had a plan. Other countries that are starting to really come out of the pandemic really did some proactive thinking. So, as a futurist, I'm working with clients to be proactive. And I tell you what, people are never going to not have a pandemic plan from this point forward.
A lesson learned, absolutely. And you are seeing what has been an industrial evolution turn into a human revolution.
Yeah, absolutely. Now it's time for us to really step up into humanity and to recognize the value of life and potential, and for us to create platforms for people that are equitable and not just trying to garner as much dollar from the relationships that we try and create in the world.
Okay, so your three quote-unquote predictions are more areas I'd like to focus on for 2021, and let's go over them. First, shifting platforms and algorithms. Like, only a few people have designed structure by which we are complicit, and those few rarely care about humans and human rights.
Yeah, the way that we built the internet and mobile apps and all that good stuff that we love, it's been unchecked for years and years and years. And we've seen documentaries like The Social Dilemma and obviously a lot of discussion between governments and big tech happening because these tech companies have just run away, run away from what is really good for the world. And, the world of socialism and capitalism doesn't intersect in any way for these people apart from making money. So now we've got a problem. Everything is being turned into a platform. Everything's trying to be monetized through advertising. Everything's trying to be a relationship with an end to create wealth and value for very few people, the companies that are out there. And now really what I think that we're starting to step out of that independent platforms, the ability for creators to make money, whether that's through platforms like Patreon or Bandcamp if you're a musician, whether you're starting to have offer sex work through OnlyFans and things like that. This is all really positive. But what's going to happen is there's going to be big discussions about really holding companies like Facebook and Google and whatever accountable for what's gone before. And it's almost like we need kind of a truth and reconciliation commission on those platforms for them to stand up and say, yes, we're sorry for what we've caused before. Here's recompense for that. And this is how we're going to operate in a way that's more equitable and empowering for humans going forward.
Well, would you go as far as saying that commission you spoke of will actually exist, as opposed to, all of us just trying to keep them in check?
Yeah, well, it's some of these ideas around a commission have started with government conversations, but then what you have to have is people at the table that are as smart as the CEOs and the people running the big tech companies, and we haven't quite seen that yet. People don't understand truly the depth of and implications of ethics and operations of tech companies. So, yeah, I really do think in the next year we're going to start seeing coalitions of government and technology coming together. What's really interesting, as I look around the world, Denmark's actually got an ambassador to Silicon Valley so they can understand how tech companies work and the impact on their world. That's a super interesting idea to me. So I think that there's going to be this closeness of relationship, but these tech companies are going to have to really sort of open their doors and become really held accountable for some of the actions that they've undertaken over the years.
Is there a fear, though, that government being too dominant as far as the construction of a commission is concerned, that it will be too much into the hands of government?
Yeah, but who else is going to deal with this? Our elected officials. It's very difficult. We can't just put it randomly in the hands of the people. And I do think that citizens and associations and the average person on the street needs to be part of this discussion, but there still needs to be a table that people sit around, and people need to look each other in the eye, and they need to get some actions behind some of the intentions that are put out there of creating a better and more equitable world.
Well, this dovetails nicely into the second quote-unquote prediction that you made on Futurist.com, Transcendent social media. We have certainly seen a shift in how we communicate and represent ourselves online.
Yeah, and I think we spoke about this last week as well, the rise of these alt-right platforms where they can be unchecked and conspiracy can run wild. Some of these platforms like Parler and Rumble, they're creating the news. We always used to say how, we as journalists, we're sort of the arbiters of news, but now they make the news, they report it, they accelerate it. They're making their own echo chambers, and then they're pushing that back into mainstream media. And it's a real challenge right now. So, yeah, we're going to see this transcendence of social media in a way like I discussed a little earlier in this conversation, where people are going to have more empowerment. They're going to be able to make money. There's a big thinker called Jaron Lanier out of Silicon Valley that talks about data dignity. If we do something online, it can be created in data and stored. Now, what happens is we sign that away in terms and conditions when we sign up for platforms. Now, he's saying, why don't we own that, and why don't we make money from the actions that we undertake on a daily basis through the digital platforms that we use? And this is why there's going to be transcendence through the use of those social media platforms beyond just monetizing content through advertising, but through the actions that we undertake and how valuable they are to brands and business and government, and they're going to have to pay for access to that.
Number 3, water, food, energy, emergent geopolitical theaters, like the most existential and essential of the areas discussed to this point. Nick, you say, quote, 2021 will see the acceleration and public recognition of global resource wars, water, energy, and food.
Yeah, so water is an absolute foundation. The globe is covered by water, but only 1% of that is usable fresh water. We've got 20% of the world's fresh water reserves here in Canada, so we're kind of like a water superpower. But water and food and energy, that three-way nexus is really important to understand. people are investing a lot of money in buying agricultural land right now. It's the access to water rights in a way, and that's going to be a new power brokerage as we start to look into 2021. Do you remember Michael Burry, the guy that was the subject of The Big Short, that film? He was the guy that made a lot of money out of the subprime crisis. Well, his primary focus of investment right now is agricultural land and water. Why? Because we're always going to need food. We're always going to need access to water. And really, we're always going to have access to energy as well. So these are going to be the new geopolitical theaters, because when people sit around the table and they're trying to work out the shape of the world, the people that own more water rights are the people that are going to have an ultimate position of power around the table.
Nick, you're all over the country. I mean, pre-pandemic, certainly, and speaking with everybody around the country since then, Alberta included. Do you fear that Canada will be left behind as other countries step forward with their renewable energy efforts?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different stories in the world of how people are progressing forward with energy, for example. We've really been very lucky over the years in Canada to have a vibrant energy economy, but it's been around bitumen and oil out of Alberta and the oil sands in Quebec and other places like that. That world is changing. It's fundamentally going to be a shift towards renewable energy, and we've got a huge amount of opportunity. Alberta, over 320 days of sunshine a year, so renewable through solar, through wind, through geothermal. It could really be a global energy powerhouse. But it has to be connected to the rest of the world, and supergrids are a technology that allowing countries around the world to connect to each other to provide and broker energy, and that is going to be a really interesting dynamic to watch over the next few years.
You don't believe it's all doom and gloom from here, Nick? Like, as you put it, quote, just a long, slow look into the darkness.
Well, you know what? Our thoughts create our reality. Our actions create our reality. If we have a positive thought about how we can create an equitable future for everyone, and we can work out access to water, access to food, access to energy in a way that's selfless and not trying to profiteer, then we're going to have an absolutely amazing positive future. The trouble is we're locked into an industrial complex of transportation, communications, and energy that was established in the Industrial Revolution 270 years ago. And it's failing, and we've seen that during the pandemic. So now we have to have a wholesale rethinking of how the world's working, and that's what I speak about with every single client. And it's tough to shift from the locked-in world that we've got today into that future. But, you know, a little bit of pain to get to a brighter world is something that we're going to have to endure.
Well, sometimes I'm not feeling positive, but when I hear you feeling positive, then I'm feeling positive. Check out NikolasBadminton.com. Futurist, researcher, keynote speaker, Nick Badminton. Nick, appreciate it as always. We'll talk again next week.
Be well, Jeff. Take care.
You too, Nick. Thank you. There's Nikolas Badminton. Again, NikolasBadminton.com.